Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, August 21st, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a 2020 Senate election map based off the predicted market. So if you don't know what the predicted market is, it's essentially just a political betting market where people can put money for individual races. For example, in the state of Montana, people bet on whether or not the Democrats or the Republicans will win in this state. And the reason why this map actually has some substance to it is because of the fact that these don't just blindly follow the polls. They do tend to follow the data that's being released, but people are betting real money. They are spending, tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, sometimes even thousands of dollars on these political betting markets. So typically, you will want to do as much research as you can, and it likely isn't too partisan of a thing. We're actually going to see this map with no tilt states based off my characterizations. In the pinned comment down below, you will see what I use to determine whether or not a state is safe, likely, lean, or tilt, but there are no tilts in this map. So, with that being said, we can go ahead and take a look at this map and actually consider it to be maybe not too accurate as to whether or not this will be the final results in November. But a lot of political analysts and a lot of people that know the races very well tend to spend money on the races that they are strong believers in a specific outcome, and they usually end up paying off. So we're going to go alphabetically. Actually, maybe not, because this list started off alphabetically and then I got lazy. So we're going to fill in all of the safe states for both parties. There are a number of states that I didn't feel was necessary to talk about the political betting odds. These are all states that have 90 cents to 100% in terms of a Democratic or Republican Party vote share, which is what I consider to be safe. Essentially, if it's a 97-cent share for the Republican Party, if it ends up winning for the GOP, it's an additional 3 cents for however many 97-cent shares that you put into the political betting markets. So pretty much just characterize all of these. They do have a race about Massachusetts Senate Democratic primary. It has Markey up by around 30 cents over Joe Kennedy. So let's characterize all of those. Let's go ahead and see, are there any other safe Democratic states? There are. But, I decided to go ahead and write those down just because they are normally contested, just not so much this election season. So there are some safe Republican states. This isn't likely to fluctuate too much. I'm going to leave out some states just because they are mildly competitive this election cycle. And that puts 20 toss-up seats on the map, which is pretty significant to say the least. We have a number of competitive races now on the Democratic Party side and the Republican Party side. Mainly on the Republican Party side, the Democrats only have 6 toss-up races right now. The Republicans have the rest, but let's go ahead and see where this map takes us. So let's talk about some of these safer races. States such as Virginia, New Hampshire, New Mexico, and Mississippi. They are all states with the Democratic Party being at 95, 96 cents for a share, or the Republican Party. It's the case for the Democrats in Virginia. They have a 96 cents for a Democratic vote share. Really shows you that the GOP is not spending too much time in Virginia in the Senate election nor in the presidential election. In the state of New Hampshire, it's 95 cents for a Democratic vote share. Jeanne Shaheen is up 19% in preliminary election polling data. In New Mexico, Ben Ray Lujan is up pretty significant amounts, double digits, 96 cents for a Democratic vote share here. But in Mississippi, the Republican Party has a little bit of a silver lining out of the 4 with a 95-cent Republican Party vote share. I don't think it'll be safe, though, on Election Day. So let's move past that state. Let's see if there's any other safe states to characterize, and there are not. The rest of these will be considered likely, lean, and there are no tilts. So we'll remain with that. So pretty much we have 16 races that are no longer considered safe, and it is pretty surprising to say the least. You see states such as Alabama and states such as Kentucky, which are solid GOP states on the presidential level, that are now competitive on the Senate level as well, at least in the eyes of the people who spend money on these races. Let's focus on some of these likely states. So likely is a characterization I gave to states with an 80 to 90 cent for a Republican Party or a Democratic Party's vote share. So there are a pretty significant amount of them. The first one is the state of Alabama. Now, while Alabama is a flip, people are very comfortable that the GOP will come away with a very solid victory in this state, thus the Democratic Party only having 13 cents in terms of the cost of their vote share in that state. For Arizona, this is another state that's actually likely, but in favor of the Democrats. The Republican Party used to lead here, just because of the fact Martha McSally was the incumbent, and at the time this was McCain's seat, but now it looks like, especially with the data that was released today that shows Mark Kelley up 19% in this state, it looks like it's going to be pretty solid for the Democrats. Over in the state of Minnesota, The Democrats have a likely characterization here as well. That's not surprising. Tina Smith is easily going to run away with an election there. Going over to the state of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell has an 87-cent vote share right there. Cent share for a projected victory for Mitch McConnell. That's pretty solid. Let's go ahead and see if there's another one. Colorado, 87 cents for John Hickenlooper in that Senate race. Michigan and Kansas are both likely races. Michigan being 84 cents for Gary Peters, Kansas being 85 cents for Roger Marshall. It would have been way worse if Chris Kobach was there, especially with the news that was released recently. Let's go ahead and see if there's any more. I'm looking at a notepad here. 81 cents for a share in the state of Alaska. So that's actually pretty significant for the GOP, considering that this race is being targeted by some Democrats, but then again, so is Kansas, Kentucky, and Alabama. In Texas, it's 86 cents for the GOP in that race, so that's considered to be likely. And that's pretty much it for the likely states. Not even Georgia's Senate special election, which is pretty surprising to me. The rest are considered to be lean. All of the rest of these states up, including South Carolina and Georgia Senate special, which I think is pretty significant. So, looking at this map, the Democratic Party actually does a little bit better looking at some of the states that are up. While they are underwater in the state of Iowa, this is only narrowly in the lean column. It's 61 cents for the Republican Party share there. In the state of Montana, it is 60 cents. So again, barely making the cutoff for the lean characterization. Super close race. In Georgia, it's 71 cents for a share there. So that should be considered to be That should be considered lean as well. It's within the 60 to 80 cents for the lean characterization. And in South Carolina, it's also 78 cents for a vote share there. So these are actually it's actually mimicking what we might see on some political forecasts. But North Carolina actually turns the tides just a tad bit by going into the lean Democratic column at 66 cents for a Democratic vote. For a Democratic win share. In the state of Georgia, the Senate special election is 77 cents for the GOP, obviously, and then in Maine, it is 69 cents for the Democratic Party there. So, looking at this map, it's 50-50. So what does that mean? If you're new to American politics or you just don't know what happens in a 50-50 tie, essentially the vice president of the United States would break that tie. And given the electoral lead that Joe Biden maintains over Donald Trump and has been for the past couple of months, at this point, I could say that Kamala Harris could end up being the next vice president of the United States, which very well could end up meaning that the Senate goes to the Democratic Party, despite them only having 50 seats. So why is the 50 significant? Well, the vice president breaks the tie only when the Senate votes in a 50-50 scenario. The vice president cannot normally vote. They are essentially the president of the Senate. They go over pretty much all the proceedings, but you also have to realize they don't really have any voting power. But they also give the majority to the political party that they're registered under, typically. Kamala Harris, of course, would give the Democrats the majority, making Chuck Schumer the Senate Majority Leader if he is chosen for that position, and pretty much, puts the Democrats in a pretty good position. But they cannot lose any Democrats at this point because this is not an outright victory. And the markets seem to be showing exactly what we're seeing in these Senate races. It is pretty significant because the Republican Party could win over a conservative Democrat and completely halt any drastic legislation passed by the Biden administration, or at least what they tried to pass. The administration and the president has no direct, at least voting impact on the legislation. They can try to force senators, but if you think about Joe Manchin, at the end of the day, he has to return to his very conservative West Virginia constituents and say, I voted for D.C. to become a state. And that probably won't go too well. So, looking at the Democrats being at 50 and the Republicans being at 50, this is honestly not too comfortable for the Democrats. They really should be doing better than this. I would expect them to have 51, 52 if they want to pass any decent legislation past this point. But for right now, I would say that a 50-50 tie, while giving them the majority, is a very risky position for them to be in. Because not only is it Joe Manchin, they have to worry about John Tester or another Democrat from a traditional state, Kristen Sinema from Arizona. Not just on DC statehood, but let's say they try to expand healthcare again. That took 60 votes in 2008. It was very, very difficult. So anyways, moving past that point, looking at these markets, this is pretty much good news for the Democratic Party. If you look at the states that the Democrats are expected to carry, it's usually by likely margins. Colorado, Arizona are two flips. It's holding Michigan and Minnesota, and the rest are considered safe. North Carolina and Maine are flips as well, but they are more competitive races. For the Republican Party, we're starting to see Montana close enough, Iowa, Georgia Senate Special, South Carolina, all 5 of these are considered to be lean versus 2 for the Democrats. And then in terms of likely characterizations, 2 for the Democrats and then 5 for the GOP. So the GOP, while entering into this election with a very large advantage, is actually coming out with a disadvantage, losing a net 3 seats following the 2020 election if this holds true. So this map could actually end up happening on election day. A lot of the political forecasts agree that it'll be a 50-50 tie based off the current trajectory of the race, but things definitely can change with the 74 days remaining until the November general election. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch tailored towards your interest, and then a playlist for my 2020 Senate election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.